Hello all, good morning, and welcome to Microsoft 365 Developer Bootcamp Hyderabad. And we are excited to kick off this with this session on exploring RBAC and PIM in Microsoft 365. We will deep dive into it, like what is mean by RBAC, PIM, and then how we can make best use of those in our Microsoft 365 applications. Uh, Before we start, I want to thank you our sponsors. Without their support, we won't be able to have the events like this. And then some kind of an personal advertising. We are also conducting similar bootcamp at Pune location on 24th and 25th of October. That means next week. So it will be entirely hands-on workshop concentrating onto the team's development, where we will go through hands-on labs of creating messaging extension, tabs, bots, task module, webhooks with Microsoft Teams. And then if you're interested, register at this location. Okay. Thank you. About this session, this session is inspired from the MS500 learning series. For example, if you are targeting MS500 certification, which is specifically for Security Administrator Associate, this session will definitely help you to get started with that path. The agenda for today is we will see like what is meant by user identity, how RBAC help us in controlling the rights and access controls to all of the users, and then what is mean by privilege identity management. Then we will also explore the principle of least privileges, and then we will go through few of the real world use cases. So myself, Nandadeep Nachan, I'm Microsoft MVP for Office Apps and Services, and author of couple of books. And on to the right hand side, here are few social handlers to get connected with me. And with me today is Smita.
Hello, all. Myself, Smita Nasan. I'm having 12 plus years of experience in SharePoint and Office 65. I'm author of one book, and here are some of the social handlers by which you can just get in touch with me. So now let's see how we can manage user identities. So everything in Office 65 starts with user identity. Microsoft is promoting a term identity. In the past, we deal with the term user account. The term user identity fits well with modern web standards, and when we have moved to cloud for managing the accounts, Microsoft have redesigned their directory services based on web standards. So for example, Microsoft Azure Active Directory. In Microsoft 365, we have users and we have our enterprise resources in terms of apps and services. User need to use these resources to perform their task, but every user in the organization cannot have access to each resource available in the enterprise. It is obvious, and to handle this we have a policies. So with the policies we can define who can access what, and this makes us up to the identity of the user. That means, as a user, which resources he or she can utilize by respecting the defined policies. There are multiple ways to manage the user identities. So Azure AD Portal gives more option to manage the identities. On the other hand, Microsoft 365 Admin Center provides more user-friendly options which are more easier to use. So let's see one demo for how to manage user identity. So for that purpose, once we go to the Azure Active Directory associated with your tenant, from the user tab, let me go to this user tab. The internet is a little bit of slow here. So from the user tab, you will able to manage all the users. So from here, you can create a new user or you can invite the other external guest user. Let it open. So once we clicked on the new user, then you have to specify a username and domain. If you have a multiple domains, then choose that domain, then provide a first name and last name, and there we have a groups and roles wherein we can select the groups that member should be part of and what role should be that particular user. So we have many roles also over here. Let it open. Yeah. So in the next thing is a setting. So in a settings, we have a block sign in. So block sign in use when we want to create user in advance, but we don't want to enable it. So for example, let's say in your organization, you are expecting a user to join on a certain date. So that what you will do is you will go ahead and create that user, but you will block the sign in access, so that when that user will join in your organization, you will allow user to sign in, and till the time you will block user sign in access. So the next thing is usage location. So while creating any of the user in Office 65, we need to set this usage location. This is this one is the must. Here they don't have a require field denoted, but this is the must. Then we have to provide a job title and department as a optional, and we can go ahead, and after that we can just click on the create button. So this is how the user creation works from Azure perspective. And again, let me go back to the existing users we have created. So once we go back to the users where we have all this our existing user present, so from there it is possible to set also multi-factor authentication, or you can just reset the password. So you can check in your environment later. So this is the one experience of creating the user. Now let's look at the other experiences. So for that purpose, let me go to Office 65 Admin Center. So this is another place from where you can create a user. So from the left layer, you have to click first on the user, and then you have to click on the active users, and then you have to click on a add a user. So if you compare this experience with what we had in Azure, this one is very much smoother experience, wherein you just have to give the username, first name, last name, and this is really very simple wizard. Once we add the let it open, yeah, once we add the first name and last name, then it will automatically populating display name, and this functionality was not there in the Azure. Then you can assign the username, and you can just set the password. So you can do this or you can create the password. The next thing, from here itself you can provide the licenses to the user. So let's say I want to assign Office 65 E5 Office 65 E5 licensing, and then I can assign optional app licenses to the user. Next thing, in the optional setting, we can either give the user admin access. So from here we are deciding. Actually, I'm getting a echo. Let me check. Just give a moment. Okay. So from here, we can just deciding we want this user to be a normal user, or what kind of administrator role we want to give for that user. Then once we click next, you can click finish by clicking that button, and then user will get created. So from both the interfaces, it will create the user, but depending on what kind of more functionality you want to perform, you can choose either Azure portal or Office 65 portal. So when you are a kind of an advanced user and you want to assign a roles, set the multi-factor authentication right at the creation of user, then go for this Azure portal user creation. And for example, if you are a kind of a non-advanced user or kind of basic user who just has got something to do with user administration, so in that case, you can go to Microsoft 65 user creation. So now let's go back and see what is mean by airbag. So RBAC is a role-based access control, helps you to manage who can access to your organization resources and what they can do with those resources. So RBACs allows an administrator to grant other users privileges to perform the task. RBAC can be considered as a permission scheme wherein we allow administrators to perform certain operations while denying them to perform the other operation. So let's see what are the roles over here. So roles are used to assign rights based on the principle of RBAC. That means give the access to the resources based on the role of user. There can be multiple roles assigned to an individual user. So let's go for the demo. And for that demo purpose, let me go to Microsoft 365 Admin Center. So post Ignite announcement, we have a roles menu available right inside Microsoft 365 Admin Center so that we can manage roles from here. So instead of going to Azure portal, so from Microsoft 365 Admin Center, you can see all the available roles. Once you click any of the role, let me click on the existing role. Yeah. So from here, you can add users to this role. Also, you can see the permissions included in this role. On the other hand, if you go to the Azure portal and under roles and administrators, you can also create a new custom role here. Now let's go back to our slide. So role defines the set of permissions granted to users assigned to that role. You can use both the built-in and custom roles. Role allow us to define what privileges user is getting. Over the time, Microsoft has added many granular roles to help administrators to limit the privileges of user. This helps to keep in control the security risk and achieve the principle of least privileges. One note is that Microsoft recommends no more than 5 global administrators, even for a larger organization. So new roles introduced recently is Global Reader. So Global Reader can view admin features and settings in all admin centers. With the role-based access become available, we can create roles specific to a certain functionality. For example, Exchange admin, compliance admin, guest inviter, and many more to help assist the global administrator. At the same time, ensure that they will not have any additional roles apart from their designated responsibilities to avoid any possible security breaches. Once we talk about Office 65, we have our Office 65 tenant. In that, we have a multiple services, including Word Online, Excel Online, Online, OneNote, Outlook, SharePoint, OneDrive, Yammer, Teams, Sky for Business, Exchange, and many more. So what happens is everything starts with user. So we have a multiple users who are part of our Office 65. Then we have something called as roles, and roles defines what user can do. So each user got one or more roles assigned to them. Then the major part is permission. So permission defines which roles can perform what operations on the available resources. So we can have those roles mapped to that permissions, and then we have those permissions assigned to each of the resources inside Office 65. So this way we are able to control the role based access because each user is a part of one or more multiple roles, and that role has got specific set of permissions with which we are able to perform only certain operations inside Office 65. Without or in absence of roles, everyone would have got every access to Office 65, which is not a preferred way. So this is how roles help us to define the access control. So let's go back to demo. So let's see how practically we can implement RBAC. For that purpose, let me go to Office 65 portal. So we will give you here two examples. One example is you have assigned licenses to SharePoint user. So one way is users, and then click on this active users and then click any of the users and click on licenses and apps. And from here, you can assign licenses and apps. But one drawback is here, you are not able to track who has got the license, and again, any of other admin can give the access, user access, and we will not able to track that. The best way is go to Azure portal. Let me quickly go to the Azure portal and then go to groups. Yes, and let me go to some already created SharePoint one group. So we have created already SharePoint access group. Yeah, and here if I go to the licenses, so you can see we have added only SharePoint. So any of the user that will add as a member or owner to this group will automatically get this license. So after adding user, that user will be able to access the SharePoint. So this is one best example if you want to provide your users licenses for SharePoint. So instead of providing them direct access from Microsoft 365 Admin Center, you can add your user in Azure group from Azure Active Directory Admin Center. So let's go to our second example. So second example is in Azure Active Directory Admin Center. We have created one group called as Allow Group Creation. So let me quickly open that group, Allow Group Creation. Yeah. So with the pandemic situation, there is a huge demand for Microsoft Teams, and then Microsoft Teams get created very frequently. And we want to have some control that certain set of users should be able to create the teams and not all the users. For that, what we will do is we will create one group. So if you want to go to the basics of Microsoft Team, so Microsoft Teams is based on Office 65 groups. So we cannot directly control who can create Microsoft Teams, but at least we can control who can create Office 65 groups. For that purpose, we have created one group called as Allow Group Creation. So only members from this group will be able to create the groups, and in turn, they will be able to create Microsoft Team. For that purpose, we can have one PowerShell script, and using that PowerShell script, we can give rights to this group to create Office 65 groups and in turn Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, okay. So next thing is like we'll see like what is mean by principle of least privileges. So principle of least privileges, that means we should give minimum possible rights to the user so that they can perform their task. So let's say for example you have been tasked with giving SharePoint administrator rights to the user. In that case, for example, even if you can give the global administrator rights to the user, he will have SharePoint administrator rights, and then he will be able to perform the SharePoint related activities, mostly related to the admin activities of SharePoint. But what we want is that user should be only able to perform the activities against SharePoint and not against all across your tenant. So for that purpose, we can use this principle of least privileges so that the user who is requesting those rights only have those minimum rights to perform their work. So for example, if I go back to our admin center here, so we have various roles defined here. So we have global administrator, which is here. So global administrator can manage your entire tenant. Sorry, it's this group administrator, but yeah, we have a global administrator here who can manage your entire tenant, and then he will have kind of an unlimited access to entire features and apps and services inside your Office 65 and the admin centers. So in turn, he will also have access to the SharePoint admin or SharePoint admin related activities. But for example, if we have been tasked with giving access to a user so that he can administer the activities onto SharePoint, better we can give them only access related to SharePoint. So here we have SharePoint admin. So we can just give them the access to SharePoint admin, and from there it can work. Second thing which is related to RBAC again is that let's say we have those groups created, but instead of from that group we want to control everything from from our role. So in that case we can again go back to Azure portal, and maybe just a moment. So this is just AAD portal. Maybe let me go to the portal.azure.com. So from this portal.azure.com, which is connected to your Microsoft 365 tenant, you can just search for access control. So once you, one moment, it's hanged. Okay, so once you go to this conditional access or this access control, you will have specialized permissions there by which you can control who in the organization can have access to which of the resources inside your Office 365 uh, resources. So just a moment, let it open. So in this conditional access, there are various options like how you want to give the controls to everyone, and then what kind of access they will have. So you are defining the conditions here, and with those conditions, you will be able to give the access to your users. So let's say, for example, if we go to this new policy and we want to create a policy by which only the users inside your um, Microsoft 365 tenant should be able to access to SharePoint. So we will call it here something called as allow SharePoint access. Then what we can do is we can go to this group assignment, and here we can just define the groups which we want here to have the access. Okay, so either all the users or selected users and group, and in those groups we can select the group that we just created before for SharePoint access. So let it load. So we had created a group here for SharePoint access group, so we can add that group here, and then again we can define like from which cloud apps they will be able to access SharePoint. So if there is none, then they will be able to access it throughout. Otherwise you can just have it from all of the cloud apps, or even you can select the apps by which they will be able to access the SharePoint. So in this again we can define like whether we want to allow access to the SharePoint from any of the apps which even does not support the modern authentication, or to the selected apps which only supports those kind of a modern authentication. So this is taking some time to load, but at least from here you will be able to select all those apps. And once it is there, next thing again you can define the condition like do you want to have any kind of an user risk or any kind of a sign-in risk considered as part of this access. And for example, if user is not following any of the conditions that we have specified here, then how do you want to raise this risk as? So you can raise this risk as high, medium, or low. And then again, based on the risk that has been raised, you can maybe allow or deny the access to your users inside SharePoint Online, or even across any of the other services in Microsoft 365. The next thing is, for example, if you want to restrict from a location perspective, even it can be done. If you want to just include the users from a certain locations or certain trusted locations or all of the locations, it can be done here. And then again we have few kind of an client tabs. Again here we can define what kind of an client apps they can use. So maybe just the browser, just the mobile apps, or even the other clients also. Next thing is once we define entire this policy, we can either grant user access to these policies, or maybe even we can uh, block the access to these policies. So we can define like blocking the access or granting the access. So this is how we will be able to create those role-based access control, and then attach those role-based access control to your groups. Okay. So let me go back here. So this is mean by principle of least privileges. So we are not giving away entire permissions, but we are just giving away the privileges that user will specifically need to perform their task. Okay, so whenever we want to assign this kind of an permission, don't give the full kind of an privileges, but only limit those to the specific privileges. For example, if there are no roles available directly inside your Microsoft 365 tenant, you can go to the Azure portal, create your custom roles, and even using those RBAC, you can attach those RBAC policies to your group by which you can control how you want to give that access. Okay, so next thing is privilege identity management, or most of the time it is referred as a PIM. So let's see like what is mean by PIM. So PIM allows you to manage, control, and monitor the accesses to important resources in Azure AD, Azure portal, as well as Microsoft 365 services. So then why should we use PIM, or privilege identity management? So organizations always want to minimize the number of peoples who can have access to the secure information or the resources. The reason is obvious that because it reduces the chance of a suspicious user getting that access, or even an authorized user accidentally impacting a sensitive resource. So we want to reduce that kind of an risk so that none of the unauthenticated user should be able to go to that resource, or even the authenticated user should not be able to even have any chance to leak any of the data or any of the resources inside your Office 365 apps and services. So users still need to carry the privileges operations inside Azure or even Microsoft 365 or even across SaaS apps that we have inside Microsoft 365. So organizations can give users just-in-time privileges access to those Azure resources and Azure Ready PIM. So what is mean by that is, let's say I want to perform certain task in Microsoft 365. I'm not a global admin, but still I want to go beyond my limitations and perform that task. In that case, that global admin will give me rights for some time with which I will be able to perform that task. And when that particular time window has lapsed, it will again fall back me to a normal user, so or the normal administrator, by which I will not be able to perform those tasks again. So PIM just provides you just-in-time privileges access to the Azure AD and all of the resources across Azure and Microsoft 365. And again, it is time-bound, so that while giving that PIM privileges, the administrator can specify that time-bound. So once that time-bound is over, you will not be able to perform those privilege tasks. Next thing is that it always requires approval to activate those privileges role. So either your global administrator can give any of the other administrator those kind of an PIM roles, or even the other administrators can ask for those PIM roles, and but it will always require approval from global administrator. Again, one more thing is that global administrators should always enforce the multi-factor authentication to activate any of the role that user want to perform, or that other admin wants to perform. And then again, we need to specify the justification why we want to have that role. And once we perform any of the activity using that PIM role, it always associated with the notification. That notification gets generated to Microsoft 365 audit, as well as to the global administrator. And then we can have or conduct the access reviews so that we can ensure that user does they still require those roles, or should we revoke their roles. And then again, we have access to that audit history, by which we can check like what are the activities has been carried out with those PIM roles. Okay, so maybe this was too much of information. Let's try to analyze like how the PIM works in a simple terminology. So to understand this better, I just want to present a story of an Iron Man. So let's say we have our user or non-global administrator. So he could be just the SharePoint administrator, or maybe just the help desk administrator. So we have our employee called as Tony, who is non-GA, non-global administrator, and he's requesting for privilege access to perform some kind of a task. So what happens is he requests that, and then the global administrator approves that particular request. So in turn, Tony has got some more privileges now, so that he can perform those tasks. So then once that time comes, he gets transformed into an Iron Man, and he can perform all those non-global administrator activities which he could have not performed without those kind of an accesses. So now that he's kind of an Iron Man, he can go ahead perform the task which he needed to work on, and he's kind of an super user or super administrator for that task perspective. But again, once he's done with that work, the time-bound privilege access lapse, and then he again comes back to the normal administrator, so that he will not be able to perform those special tasks. But now that again he's back to the normal conditions or normal privileges that he had. So again, this is how the PIM works. So you have a user who don't have the access to perform that task. He asks for those accesses to the global administrator. Global administrator approves that so that he will get more power to perform those tasks. And when that time bound privileges access expires, he will be again go back to the normal user. So maybe let's try to take this more into the day-to-day working life examples. So just one use case of admin who can go on to the leaves. So we have a global admin who is maybe going for a leave for 2 weeks, and why he should not. For example, if someone is a global admin, he should go for a leave. Okay, and then again, let's say our user admin who is again kind of an privileged role. So he's also on the leave. And then we have new members who will be joining our organization next week. So we have our global administrator on leave, we have our user administrator on leave. So then who can take care of their account creation into the Azure Active Directory so that those new users who are joining our organization, they will be part of our organization and they will be able to perform those tasks. So let's see like how we can handle this kind of a situation. Okay, so let's go into the demo. So mm, I have this particular user, okay, as the global administrator. So this user has got admin user has got all the power, and now that this admin user is going on to a leave, then next I have one more user whose name is Lee, and he's not the user admin. So even from here you can see that this Lee user is not able to add any of the users. He don't have those privileges. So even if I go to users, active users, you can see that he is not able to add any of the users. So what we want now is that we want to give those accesses to this user. So whenever our admin will be on leave, this user Lee will be able to perform those tasks on behalf of the admin. So let's go ahead. For that purpose, what we will do is we are already to the Azure admin portal, and then we have something called as privilege identity management. So even in the Azure portal, you can search out for privilege identity management. Maybe you can search it from here. Once you click onto that privilege identity management, you will be taken to this portal from where you can define who should have those privilege accesses. So here we will just go to my roles, and then we will click onto this Azure AD roles. Okay, so from here we can see like who can have the accesses and who can do the things here. Okay, so let me again go back to the PIM. We have this Azure AD roles here. Um, from here I will be able to assign the eligibility, assign the role, even approve the roles. So again here I will go to roles. From here we will be able to track our roles. So here we can see all of the assignments that we have. So let's say we want to add our user as the user administrator. So for that purpose, I will click user administrator. So at least this is a group where we want our lead to add. So for that purpose, maybe I will just click add assignment. So from that add assignment, we will select the role as user administrator because we want our lead to become a user administrator in our absence. So once we select that, from here, we can have the scope like just for the entire Active Directory or just for the administration unit. So we will go ahead with entire directory. We'll click this members, and from here we will select this user Lee, so that we want this user Lee to become user administrator in the absence of oh sorry, from here. Okay, we have the user Lee selected, and here again we have two types, whether he should be eligible or active. Eligible, that means we are just making him eligible, but again he has to active his make his role activated, and then he can perform those tasks. And again one more thing is that do we want to permanently give this user those rights, or we want to give them time bound rights. So in this case I will give him a time bound rights, but maybe I will just give it for only 1 hour. Okay, I'm just going to give him access for 1 hour. So it's 10:30 now, and we want to give him those role for only 1 hour. So I will just click assign. So now that this particular user is going to get that role only for 1 hour. Okay, so I think that is being done. Okay, now we have assigned that role. Now let's go back to this particular user Lee and try to see how the experience from the Lee's perspective. So in some time we should be able to get one email here which is saying that you have been assigned that particular role, and from here he can perform those roles. Just a moment, yeah. Otherwise, even one thing what Lee can do. Okay, yeah. Now the email is here. Thank God it was in a time. So from here he can click view the roles which are assigned to that user Lee. So under those my roles, he will be able to see the roles which are eligible roles for him, activated roles, or even the expired assignments. So from here he can go ahead. He will activate that particular role to become user administrator in the absence of the global administrator. So he's activating that role. Firstly, Azure portal will validate this request. Now that it wants some additional verification because we have imposed the multi-factor authentication. So it will ask us to log in with the multi-factor authentication. Let me type in the code here, 195. So now that we have been forcefully asked to have the multi-factor authentication done, which we have done just now. So it will validate that particular request, and from here we'll be able to activate that user. Lee should be able to activate that role. So it take a few moments, but again, yeah, again here we can define like does he want to have that start time or custom start time end time for this. Otherwise we can go ahead with the one which is specified by the global administrator. So add users in absence of global administrator. So this is the reason that we are giving for activating this role. So once you click activate, this will go through the step of validating your request again. It will validate the type of activation, and then lastly it will activate that particular role for you. Again, one thing to note here that we just have seen that this particular user is not able to add any of the users to our Microsoft 365. Let's see what happens after this request gets approved. And again, one more thing is that once that role is approved, even our global administrator will get a notification by an email that the other user Lee, he has activated his role. So, okay, let it be. Okay. Yeah, now we have got this role that this other user Lee, he has activated this user account administrator. Okay, so if I can go back to user Lee, refresh this. Okay, under active assignments, we should be able to see that we have this. Okay, already he was help desk administrator with the permanent access, but now that he has got this user administrator role activated for 1 hour. So that means if I now go back to even this user get the email that now he is the user account administrator, so that he can perform the role of user admin. So now if we go back to the portal, and if I just refresh this page, we should be able to add new users from this particular Lee user. Okay, so it is taking some time. Okay, come on. Actually, everything works when we are not doing a live demo, but once we go to this live demo, most of the things get very much slow. Okay, it might take some time for this role to get activated. Okay, let me try it one more time. Otherwise, what we can do is we can forcefully log out this particular user, ask him to log in one more time, and with that he should be able to get those roles. So I will go to my global administrator. We will click this Lee. Let me check one more time if this user has got the rights. Otherwise, we will forcefully log him out and we will ask him to log in one more time. Okay. Okay. Even maybe my internet is becoming very slow now. Okay, okay, we still have we still don't have that, so we will initiate the sign out for this user entirely so that he will be signed out with all of his sessions, And then we will again open up the window for this user Lee. So if I can go here, if we again we are now again trying to log into this user Lee, so we'll sign in. Okay, yeah, it should ask me for password. Okay, we'll click yes. And now if we go to the admin center, because sometimes it takes maybe 3 to 4 minutes to get this role activated. Now that you can see, we have been logged in with user Lee, and now that I'm able to add this user. Okay, so if I even go to user active users, you can see that this user Lee now is user administrator, so that even though he doesn't have got permission or permanent access to add the users, now he has got that team access, so that he can go ahead and create the users in absence of global administrator. Okay, so this is how the team administrators are quite important in our organization, and this is what they can do. Then again, maybe I will quickly take 5 to 7 minutes more to cover the B2B collaboration. So B2B collaboration, that means business to business collaboration, which enables organizations to securely share their applications and services with guest users from other organizations. And even during that, even we can maintain the control over the corporate data. So let's say we are at Contoso. We are working for organization called at Contoso, and then we have our vendor called as in Fabricam, who works for Contoso, and we want to enable this B2B or business to business collaboration between these two organizations, Contoso and Fabricam. So what we want to do is we want to get added few of the users from Fabricam to our Contoso tenant, but we don't want to give them entire rights, but at least just the rights by which they will be able to perform those activities. So again, to represent that, I have two domains here. So or two Microsoft 365 tenants here. One is the one which you can see right now. Maybe I will close it down. Whoa. Okay, this is the one I have here, and then again I have one here, which is my another tenant. Okay. Okay, so I will go ahead with this. Let us go to the Azure AD portal one more time. And here, if we go to users, from here we can click new guest user. And instead of creating the user, we will click invite the users, because we want to invite the user from Fabricam. And in the Fabricam, I have one user here already called as oh, I think I did not log in with that user. Just give me one moment. I will quickly log into that with that user. Okay, this is the one which with which I want to log in. All right, so I will copy this. This is the user which I want to get added to uh, our Contoso. So I will type in the name. We are not creating the user, but we are just inviting that Fabricam user. In the email address, I can type the email address of that Fabricam, and then we can specify the first name, last name, and again any personal message we want to give. Maybe we'll just say B2B collaboration. Then here we will not give any of, we will not add him to any of the group, we will not give him any of the roles, but just that this information, and we will click. Yep, one thing is it we will have to give the usage location, and then we will just click invite, so that we are inviting the user from other domain, which is our Fabricam user, to our Contoso domain. Okay, so with that, I will go back to the experience of Fabricam domain. Oh, this is not the user. Okay, this is the one, and let me open up the mail. So in the email, he will get the notification that someone from Contoso has invited you for this B2B collaboration. So I will accept that invitation. I will go ahead, accept that. So once we accept that, this user will become a part of our Contoso. So here we will see or review the permissions which Contoso is asking for. We will accept that, and then uh, this user will get added as a guest user to our Microsoft 365 tenant of Contoso. Okay, so let us do that very quickly. Okay, now that we have this user added as guest user to our Contoso. Okay. Okay, it is still loading, but I guess, yeah, even I can go here. If I refresh this, we should be able to see that this user has accepted to become a collaborative user along with Contoso. Next thing that we can do is we can again go back to this Azure Active Directory, and we can click this identity governance. So for the organization, it takes care of security aspect by ensuring right people will have the right accesses at the right time. So here we can click that AD roles. From here again we can click those Azure AD roles, and from here we will select this roles once it gets enabled. So from this role we want to allow that Fabricam user to invite other users from the Fabricam. So for that reason we will add the assignment for the other user as the guest inviter, so that that user will be able to add other users as a guest user to our tenant. And in the members I will select the user which we just invited here, which is my user. Okay, and we'll click select. We'll click next here. We will directly make it active just to save the time, and we will even give him permanently assigned rights. So we'll just click on assign, so that that user will get permanent access onto our Azure AD. And next thing is that again we will go back to our Azure Active Directory, and then we can click this external identities. So from these external identities we can see like how we can collaborate with the other Azure Active Directory users. So we can, for that reason, we can just click this external collaboration setting. We can specify the settings here, like who can invite other users and all those things. Next thing is that we will go to again maybe to the identity governance. Maybe I'm going too fast here, but at least just wanted to have the concept of how the B2B collaboration will work. And once we are here, we will click the identity governance, and then we have this connected organizations. So to here we will add our other connected organization as the vendor which we want to work with. So this is the domain I have added here. And again here we have something called as access packages. So that means we will specify which kind of an partner access packages that user should be able to see. So here we can specify maybe the groups, the SharePoint sites, the Office 65 groups or teams that he wants to access. Okay, so with that all things set up, let us go back to this user. Even now he should have got the email that now he has become the guest inviter. So we'll click on view or activate user here, and from here he should be able to see all the resources which have been shared by the Contoso with this Fabricam. So let me open up here quickly. Mm, Now from here even you can see that if I go to switch directory, now that I'm into the Contoso, this is my local directory or my home directory, but now that I'm to the Contoso directory. So from here I can do the certain things which I can do. So again, for example, if I open the portal.azure.com from here, just wanted to just wanted to see again that this user, yeah, maybe I will just take,
time is very up. Try
sure,
to
sure, sure, sure.
proceed.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
I will just wrap it in 2 minutes.
Yeah, okay, no problem.
Okay, sure. So once I click this view onto this Azure Active Directory, even if I go to users, okay, come on, load it fast. So okay, so from here if I go to users, even you can see that now that I'm to the Contosos user directory, still I don't have access here to add any of the user directly to the Contoso. But since I have got that guest inviter role, I can go ahead. I can add any of the other users. So probably next thing what I wanted to do was I just wanted to add this Chris, who is the user inside my organization, to here. So maybe I will just quickly try to do it. will just invite this. So once we invite this, even this user should be able to get to a part of Contoso. Even he will get that email, and then finally, once we go to myaccess.microsoft.com, uh, the user from the other organization, that means from Fabricam, he should be able to see all of the accesses or all of the apps those have been shared with that particular user with uh, from or at least from the Contoso domain. Okay, so let it load. Let it load. So okay, so here at least since this is the admin, he will see all of the access packages which is being given by the Contoso. Even he can see the request history. Again, he will become the approval for all of the approvers from the Contoso from the Fabricam perspective, and he will have the access to all of those reviews. So yeah, miss, at least those were the points I wanted to discuss, and then or at least this is how you will be able to create your B2B use cases. Oh, my slide is not going forward. But yeah, okay. At least means that was the end of it. And again, in the next slide, I have few of the resources. Maybe I will share offline with you. So there we just have few of the links which probably you can go ahead with. Okay, so these are those references. For example, if you want to implement that RBAC or PIM or even this B2B collaboration within your organization, this is a good read to start with that. But okay, I think I took some more time. But again, thank you for having us here and hope you enjoyed the session.